financial crisis recovery.
Foreclosure, short sales, bankruptcy, credit card debt, job loss, depreciating home values, money management. Peace of mind when it comes to your finances seems completely out of reach under current conditions, but there is a way to achieve it. For the next 60 minutes, you're going to find out how to cover your assets. Cover your assets.
Before the bill comes due, I want to actually demonstrate a payment. And at the end of that same 36 months, I have now demonstrated 216 times that I have made my payments on time, as opposed to 36 over the same period of time with one trade line. Here's my question for you. Which one do you think is going to build a credit score faster? 216 on-time payments or 36 on-time payments?
Yeah, 216.
You bet.
No, what about just getting like a Target credit card and paying it off every month?
Well, number one, paying off a credit card in full every month isn't the best thing. It's not the thing that drives your score up the most. Maintaining a low balance ratio of 5 to 20% will give you, you're in the so-called sweet spot, will give you the greatest impact in terms of driving a score up. Also, making the minimum payment plus $1 more, because, see, you don't want to pay it off each month. You want to simply demonstrate payment history while maintaining a low balance ratio, and you're proving that you know how to manage credit while maintaining that low balance ratio and making consistent on-time payments. So the way you want to make those payments is you want to make a minimum payment plus $1 more. If you make a payment of $10 more, it won't be 10 times better. $1 more is enough to tweak the model, and you do that consistently with as many trade lines as you can in a given window of time, and that's how you manipulate and drive up a credit score. Obviously, it presupposes that you're managing money properly, because if you don't, all these credit lines could be the very nemesis that comes back and bites you in the rear end. So you got to manage money properly to be able to maintain and build credit. Bob, I'm going to have to let you go. Hopefully I answered your question. On the other side, we're going to be talking more about how to manipulate a credit score. Thanks for listening to Cover Your Assets. Bye-bye. Welcome back to Cover Your Assets. Glad to have you listening out there, and hope you're gleaning some information and learning some valuable stuff here. The last caller was talking about how to manipulate and drive up his spouse's score she's been in college. Sounds like she locked up her credit score, locked it down, and hasn't really had any credit information. We were talking about how to use credit lines to manipulate a score, and one of the points that I want to make leading up or following after that is that the average balance on a card is what reports to the credit reporting agencies in many instances. So let me make this point. If I've got a credit card that has $1,000, and it doesn't matter if it's got 1,000 or 10,000, because it's the amount that you're using at any given time that can help or hurt you. The sweet spot, as I've already said, is 5 to 20%. But do you know that when your credit your credit limit of $1,000 is exceeded by 20%, which in that case would only be over $200, that is already beginning to lower your credit score? And once you go over 50%, for every percentage point that you put of credit on that line, so if it's a $1,000 credit line, that's $500, right? And if we take 1,000 and divide it into 100, that means every $10 represents 1% of that credit line. For every $10 that you put on that credit card above $500, because in this case that's 50% of a $1,000 credit line, do you know that you could be lowering your credit score by 1 to 2 points for every percentage you have over that? So once you go over 20%, you're already losing the positive element that is driving credit score up. And once you go over 50%, you are diminishing your credit score dramatically with every percentage you put on over 50%. Now, for a lot of people, they don't think that's a problem. Because, hey, man, I got a $10,000 credit card. Not a big deal. I put everything on there because I want to get all the frequent flyer miles. And, I probably bang that thing up to maybe $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month, but I pay it off in full at the end of the month. Yet, Todd, I don't understand. I don't have a good credit score. My credit score keeps going down, down, down. Well, here's what you don't know. It's not what you pay it down to at the end of the month that is being reported to the credit reporting agencies. It's the average balance that you carry throughout the 30-day reporting period. So you could have an average balance of $6,000, $7,000, and even though you pay it down in full at the end of every single month, your average balance is 40, 50, 60%, which absolutely is lowering and hindering your credit score from building, and is in fact lowering your credit score, in some cases lower than it would otherwise be if you didn't even have the credit line at all. Here's the other thing that I want you to know. A lot of times people will have 5 credit cards, $10,000 each, $50,000, and they've got 4 of them that they never use. Now, they could use them tomorrow. They're opened, they're active, but the one credit card that they do use gives them the best frequent flyer miles. And so, hey, they only use that one, and they routinely bring that thing up to $7,000, $8,000 every single month. But hey, that's not a big deal. And their mortgage broker looks at the summary page of a credit report and says you got $50,000 of revolving trade, and you're only, it looks like you're only averaging $7,000 or $8,000 against $50,000. So you're in good shape. Yet they call me up, the credit expert, and they say, hey, Todd, I don't understand. I'm a mortgage broker, and I pulled this person's score a year ago, and for whatever reason, there's no derogatory payment history, yet their score is 80 points lower than it was before. What in the heck am I missing here? And I say, well, here's what's probably going on. Because they're not using those other 4 trade lines, after 6 months of inactivity, meaning no point-of-sale purchases and no payments on those trade lines, they become diminished dramatically in the overall. And after they become 2 years old, meaning 2 years of no activity, they're not contributing hardly anything at all. So interesting thing, although on the summary page of a credit report it says that you have $50,000 of revolving trade against an average balance of $7,000, in point of fact, what's actually going on behind the scenes, this is one of those dirty little secrets, is that your average credit balance of $7,000 or $8,000 is really only being compared against one active trade line of $10,000. And although it says $50,000 on the summary page, the scoring model is actually functioning $8,000 of average balance on a $10,000 credit card. You're at 80% and your credit score is plummeting. Wow. Now, had you used those other trade lines intermittently, then it would have continued to use $50,000 against the $88,000 that you actually are using regularly, and you'd be in much, much better shape. Remember, how to manipulate a credit score. So let's take our next call here. Looks like Gordy, he's got a question regarding his ID that was stolen. Gordy, welcome to Cover Your Assets. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me on. I was just listening to you and had a question about my credit report. It seems to be good. I just got a new one in the mail, and our house is paid for. We have a home equity loan that right now it's caught up. I mean, it's paid for, but we use it off and on. But recently, we had our ID stolen, not with a credit card, but ID stolen, and people applying for credit with our ID. And I was wondering what that does to our credit score.
Oh, Gordy, it is an absolutely devastating occurrence. It is really challenging to overcome. I mean, I'm assuming, have you got the police involved in this and the FBI and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, right away we reported it to the 3 agencies, and we have a watch on it. And we also pay the extra fee for notified each month of any new activity. Reported it to the local police department. They said they made a report on it, but they don't follow it up because there's really not that much they can do about it. But the TransUnion is the one we were dealing with. They said just make sure you make a report, and we've reported to them that there is a report filed, and that's where we're at for now.
All right. So here's what I want to tell you. I want you to listen to this very specifically. First, I'm going to assume that you've already done this, but I want to say it anyway. Make certain, obviously, on every trade line that you have, you want to have those credit cards, any trade lines that are open credit cards, or credit lines for that matter, that are accessible. You want to make sure that those credit lines have been changed and the accounts have been changed. And when you do so, you want to ask the creditors to take your payment history and transfer it to the new account so that you don't lose all that good payment history in your credit score, lest your credit score plummets dramatically. So that's the first thing you want to do, Gordy. All right, next thing you want to do is you want to go online, and I want you to do a search on codes to open credit accounts, and you can literally Google this. And what that means is anytime with the credit reporting agencies, remember, you got to do all 3 of them. Going to TransUnion isn't enough. It's like pulling one credit bureau and thinking you're really getting a window to the world, and you're not, because some creditors report to this bureau or that bureau but don't report to all 3. So one bureau is not a credit report. You need all 3 major credit reporting agencies. You need to go to all of them, and you need to tell them that you want to institute a code where anybody who tries to open up a credit line in your Social Security number, your name, any way, shape, or form, you have to be called. They have to speak with you in person, and you have to give them a code that you've established with them over the telephone before any credit can be opened. If you do that, literally, if somebody tries to open up a credit account at Target or Nordstrom's or wherever they might do that, literally that person will be retained, and they will try to arrest them right on the spot. So that is one of the most important things that you can possibly do to try to lock yourself down and ensure that that doesn't happen. Now, beyond that, you obviously need to become a part of credit monitoring services, and you need to keep a very close watch on that. And then with that, I suspect your credit is already beaten up. And isn't it disheartening to hear when the professionals, the FBI and the other authorities tell you there's really not a heck of a lot you can do, and it can destroy a credit history that you worked a lifetime to build. It's infuriating. So what I'm going to say to you is this. Listen to this radio show on the podcast on ESPN 1500 and re-listen to what I said about how to rebuild a credit score. That way, if there is any negative, you can overcome it in short order.
So you contact each one of these credit reports individually and ask to establish a code to open an account?
You better believe it. You tell them you got identity theft going on, and you explain to them exactly what I said, and that is TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. And don't forget that Equifax also goes by CSC Credit Services. All this information you can download. You can go on the internet and go to ESPN 1500 website, go to our show, Cover Your Assets, and you'll see the podcast. And you can literally sit and listen to this about 5 times and take notes and then do exactly what I'm telling you to do here, okay?
Okay.
And that is, Gordy, that is the best advice I can give you. I'm going to run out of time, so I'm going to need to let you go, but hopefully that was valuable to you, Gordy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, you know, a lot of things to know about credit. Interesting that a person could go into a car dealership to buy a boat, a motorcycle, snowmobile, any one of these dealerships. They attempt to get financing. In the course of one afternoon, they could pull your credit 10 times, and each credit inquiry can lower your score by as much as 18 to 20 points per time. And that information, those credit inquiries, can continue to affect your score for 1 to 2 years. So literally, if you're trying to buy a house, refinance a house, and you go to buy a car during that period of time, do you know that if you have less than perfect credit, which is kind of a comical statement, but I don't know what perfect credit is, and I'm not certain I know exactly what less than perfect credit is, and I'm a bona fide credit expert. But anyway, bottom line is if you don't have, 740-plus credit scores, you literally, as a result, might have your credit beaten up, and in the course of one afternoon, your credit could be pulled 10 times, and it could affect your ability to refinance or buy a home for the next 1 to 2 years. So credit inquiry is a pretty big deal as well. Tried to cover as much as I could on the show today. We're just about out of time. We're going to have to wrap it up. I always try to get as much information in as I can, and I try to impart information that you'll not hear anywhere else to you folks, and try to make this show distinctive in that regard. Re-listen to the show on ESPN 1500's website, or you can go to the CYA21 website and download these podcasts, CYA21.com, and download these podcasts. Listen to them over and over and over again. Don't forget, I charge $250 an hour for this. You can get it free here on Cover Your Assets. Also, go to the Financial Crisis Bible. Download that, www.financialcrisisbible.com. Hopefully you enjoyed the show all about how to manipulate a credit score. We'll be back next week with another round of Cover Your Assets, covering all things related to your credit and finances. Thanks for listening.
The proceeding was a paid program. The views expressed are not necessarily those of the management or ownership of 1500 ESPN.